Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of the Pegasus Files, hosted by Acart Communications. I am super excited to introduce my guest today on the show, Steve Cody, CEO, co-founder of Ruckify. Thanks for joining me on the show today, Steve.
Thanks for having me on, Andrew.
Yeah, so we've got some fun stuff to chat about today. So I really just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling, and maybe Steve, tell us a little bit about Ruckify and how it all began and what your role is in the business.
Sure. Yeah. So, I'm co-founder. I'm CEO. Partner is Bruce Linton, and basically I run day to day, and Bruce handles the money. So, capital markets, raising money, anything to do with that. We're both aligned and work together in terms of overall strategy. But that's kind of how we split our roles right now. And if you look at the business, I built and sold 6 different rental companies in my career. And probably about 4 years ago, we had a tree fall down out front of the house.
Yeah.
And Bruce, he loves a chainsaw. And like the clouds hadn't even passed. And Bruce, I heard the chainsaw out front of the house, and Bruce was out there cutting and kind of like, what's going on, Bruce? And he's, Steve, I'm getting it all cut up for you, but I can't get the stump at the bottom because the blade on my chainsaw is not long enough.
Right.
And and he was quite worried about it. And we kind of thought, well, a neighbor's probably got a bigger chainsaw, but we don't know. We don't know that. And out of that conversation, we said, you know what, we should make an app for that. Like, we should know if a neighbor's got a chainsaw or rototiller or whatever it is in their garage. So I was building a company called Better Software at the time. He was starting to build a company called Canopy Growth.
Yep.
So we kind of left it at that. And then, the more we started talking about it, the more we started thinking about it. We think, if you look at the sharing economy, which is really rentals in a lot of ways, it needed to be disrupted, and it was primed for disruption.
Yeah.
We have our traditional rental houses where you kind of, you go to Home Depot rentals, you walk up, driver, like they kind of need all your information, driver's license, and it's just an old process. And we wanted to democratize it. So, I had 6 companies. I love rentals. You buy something and you make money over and over from the same item. So, we wanted to democratize it. So that's kind of where the idea for Ruckify happened.
Yeah. And so, obviously, like, Ruckify, is, I believe it's the largest rent anything marketplace right now.
Yes.
So, maybe just talk about when you were thinking of this idea initially. You probably weren't thinking of it at the scale that it's been climbing towards. You were probably just thinking, well, you've got a problem. It'd be great if there was an easy way to solve this problem. Is it, or was it you knew that you were onto something that nobody else had really thought of?
Yeah, the latter. So we knew if we were going to do it, and we really felt we wanted to do it, we knew we wanted to be the biggest in the world. So that was kind of the start, and you had to work backwards from there. And then, so you started looking at the sharing economy, the new way of doing rentals, and you could see certain verticals were getting traction. So Airbnb in homes, there were some RV marketplaces, boat marketplaces, cameras. But when you started, a sensible thing might be to say, I'm going to pick one vertical and I'm going to use that as my beachhead and I'm going to get traction. But the problem there is you start looking at these verticals and there's no lifetime value in the customer. So if you want to start a boat rental marketplace, even an RV rental marketplace, in RVs, we could find the most we could find was 12% of the customers would actually ever come back. So if that's the case, you're never going to have, good lifetime value on that customer, and you have high customer acquisition costs. So for us, it was, let's just build a rent anything marketplace, which is a lot harder to do. But at the end of the day, somebody could rent out their boat. They could rent out the water skis to go with the boat, and then you can rent the wheelchair after the injury, right? So literally, you could kind of take the customer right through the whole journey. But it was crossing marketplaces. So anyways, that was kind of the premise, and to be top of mind. If somebody said,
Yeah.
I need to rent, like I've got a waterbed and I need to rent a waterbed pump. Well, where the hell are you going to rent a waterbed pump? Try Ruckify.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, we're obviously seeing things like Amazon that have really shaken up, the way everybody looks at even the consumer buying process. I mean, the amount of verticals they've woven their webs into. And I think when I think of Ruckify, what I find really interesting is that there's this A to Z marketplace where, if I want to look for something, that would be my starting place to look. And, I may not have a need for it more than one or two times. It might be
Yeah.
to fulfill a very short-term desire that I have, or maybe it's something that I'm looking to buy eventually, but want to try out first to understand if it's something that, I want to get involved with. And so I think the concept on the consumer side, when we look at it from the marketing side, it's really interesting because, if I want to buy a $2,500 camera, well, it'd be great for me to be able to rent one and try it out, see how it works, take some photos with it, see if I like it, see if it's something that I can, be willing to make an investment with at some point. I guess what I'm getting at is that Ruckify allows me to start that journey.
Yeah.
And that's what I find really interesting about the product. But I think something that I found interesting, maybe you can touch on this, is that Ruckify has also found verticals that have been highly underutilized, like the RVs, for example. The RV marketplace, like utilization of RVs by owners is quite low, is it not?
Yeah, 4%. A car is the same thing.
Yeah,
It's 4%
yeah,
utilization. So, think about the
yeah,
environmental impact when you're looking at that
yes,
utilization. If we can get somebody sharing that RV and help other people not buy a new
yeah.
RV, that's a lot less tires that need to be made, a lot less tires that need to get disposed of. It's just really good for the planet.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Yeah. So maybe Steve, let's pivot a little bit and I mean obviously COVID-19 and the pandemic we're in right now, the global pandemic has created lots of challenges for all different types of verticals across Canada and the rest of the globe. And we are seeing that this isn't something that's only touching one or two different types of businesses or verticals. This is impacting everybody in a wide variety of unique ways. It would be great to just get a better understanding of the sharing economy and what you see the role of the sharing economy post-pandemic and through this pandemic. What are your general thoughts and where do you see, the sharing economy moving toward?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can remember we were in Austin. We were doing our go-to-market launch in Austin, and I had bought a one-way ticket there. I was in Austin with other
Yes.
teammates.
Yeah.
And Bruce and I were talking on the 11th of March. And the conversation was pretty good, but this virus thing was kind of in the back of our minds. We did, well,
Yeah.
how is this going to impact us? Then on the 12th, things really started getting weird. The big sports teams and everything started canceling their seasons. And then
Yeah.
by the 13th, I was literally on an airplane on my way home. And there was a lot of, we didn't really know what was going to happen. And so that was quite scary at first. So, first thing we had to do was to be responsible and, cut our operating costs by about 68%. And then it was, do you cocoon? Do you go into like a cocoon mode, or
Yeah.
is there something here? So we kind of met in the middle. And for us, it's actually, not only are we able to really help during the crisis, but boy, we can really, like, we already see where we have saved businesses, and we already see where we're making people some extra money.
Yeah.
The UFC gym in Austin. I mean, these guys were in rough shape until they found Ruckify, and they thought, oh my God, I can rent out my treadmills, right? So,
Yeah.
so they quickly rented them all out. So it's not, it's something, right? It's probably
Yeah.
not as much as they were making before, or same with individuals. So I think with Ruckify, we're going to play a role both with the consumer and small business. So with small business, they've got underutilized assets. Like you said, the try before you buy it. They're going to have broken supply lines. I heard that
Yeah.
80% of the wedding dresses weren't going to make it to North America. So if you own wedding dresses, maybe you want to rent half of your inventory, because once it's all gone, right? So,
Yeah.
so we can help small business, and then we're going to be able to help consumers. Consumers both need to make some extra money,
Yeah.
and I think they're going to need to save some money. And a lot of us, in a good economy, we all kind of turn into specialists. And when it's rough, we got to turn into generalists. So, if I was an electrician before going in to do a job, I probably had a couple of other jobs lined up. So I just keep going. Now, if somebody said, a good tile cutter, well, maybe the electrician says, well, I'll do the tiles, but he doesn't own a tile cutting machine. So he's going to rent one. If I'm at home, maybe I used to hire a window washer to come in and clean my windows. Well, maybe now I'm going to rent a ladder and clean the windows myself. So all this starts to happen in a tough economy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess just like, how is Ruckify positioned right now, for this sort of future trend here? I mean, obviously we're seeing that, sharing economy right now, I mean, it's tough because, you've had to probably adapt and change some of your business models. I mean, I know, for example, that you've been looking at, you do have some contactless services that you've created as well. So like maybe talk to some of the innovations that you've been looking at through this, given some of the issues with COVID-19.
Yeah, I mean, the handing off of the item was the biggest concern right from the get-go. We already had what we call as Ruckify Express in the works. This just really expedited it for us. And what Ruckify Express is, if you're going to rent out your treadmill, we're going to say sanitize it before you put it out front of your house. Our Ruckify Express driver will pick up the treadmill. They'll sanitize it again when they pick it up. They're going to sanitize it when they drop it off to the person that needs it. And then the person that receives it, we're going to say sanitize it. So we're always looking for 4 points of cleaning and sanitization with the handoff of any product. So it's probably cleaner than it's ever been, but we need to make sure it's safe. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And I think one of the biggest successes we've had is doing webinars. So just there's, people are at home, they want to engage. So I think we had a webinar today. We had 120 people go to the webinar, which is amazing for us because now, not only have they attended the webinar, they're Ruckify ambassadors and they're going to go and they're going to tell 3 or 4 people. Right.
Yeah.
So that's tremendously powerful for us.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess maybe just like a hypothetical scenario here, but like, if social distancing and some of the work from home reality, ends up going on for an elongated period of time, does the focus at all change for Ruckify, or does it change sort of anything that's been in the works in terms of business plans or approach?
Yeah, everything changed. Everything changed on the 13th of March. So again, reducing operating costs by 68%. To give you an idea, we were ramping our go-to-market, and we were spending $200,000 to $300,000 a month on marketing to help build awareness and just get people to use Ruckify. Since COVID, we've not spent $5,000 on marketing, and we're up in different KPIs. We're up anywhere between 300% and 500%. So that's user signups, that's bookings, that's people posting items, and people are very engaged. So, and we're working with organizations like United Way, Connected Canadians. So instead of kind of, we're just coming at it really from grassroots and able to build up. And right now that's working quite well for us.
Yeah. So I know you and I chatted before, and you sort of mentioned, a lot of people are talking about a V recovery, but what's your general philosophy? And like, when you look at what the future looks like, maybe walk me through, like, how long do you think the restoration period is going to be for the economy? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm optimistic. I'd love nothing more than a V recovery. I just can't see that as being possible. I mean, we've got supply chains that are being broken. When they start breaking, then you have a domino bankruptcy effect. So there's just going to be a lot of cash not in the system, and there's going to be a lot of people hurting. I see it as really a 5-year recovery is where realistically is where I see it. And I know people don't want to hear that. But I also think that during this, and we're already seeing it, like during this crisis, there's a lot of opportunity. We have to, I think the quicker we get our heads around the fact that we aren't going back. We're going forward. It's a new economy. You have to find a new way to do business, and you got to get on board, and you got to do it fast. Don't hang on to the past, because that's going to hurt. But if you innovate and you get on board with a new economy, man, there's going to be it's going to be a gold rush. Like, there will be some amazing opportunities. So,
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you've also mentioned that, Airbnb was born out of the last recession. And I mean, there's been lots of fantastic companies that have innovated in times where,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, with great difficulties and challenges around them. And I think there's a real entrepreneurial spirit in Canada. I mean, me being an Aussie, I kind of always love to sort of look at the way different populations look at innovation and entrepreneurship. And I find that there is a lot of innovation and entrepreneurship, and in Canada, there's a lot of great tech communities, across Canada. I mean, Ottawa is one of the leading tech hubs in Canada. And I think there's lots of opportunity here. I think there's going to be a lot more collaboration. I think people will collaborate a lot more openly and freely to be able to create solutions which can be applied at scale. I do believe that. I guess maybe touch on I would love to chat with you more about the tech company side of things. And I guess I have quite a pointed question here, but like, tech companies use a variety of different ways to scale their business, and the measures of success in the tech company generally, when they're looking at scaling, is quite different from a traditional brick and mortar business, or, a traditional business operation. So, like, where does Ruckify fit there? I mean, has Ruckify still been able to scale the way that you had intended to before? Have you had to maybe think differently about the scaling approach?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think with Ruckify, again, really basing it on our early success, post COVID. I mean,
Yeah,
we see it'll be a slower ramp, because we're having to
yeah,
figure things out and do things a little bit differently. But I actually
right,
think at the end of the day, we're going to scale faster. And if we look
yeah,
at, access to money, which is really what we need, uh, I've never had more emails come to me
right,
just from individuals looking to
right,
invest. And if you look at comparable companies like a Shopify, like an Upwork, like an Etsy, like an Amazon, so these kind
yeah,
of marketplace-ish companies, they're all doing
yeah,
extremely well, because they are part of the new economy.
yeah,
So, yeah, I think we're going to be able to ride it out. We have another business, Cody Party, totally different situation.
mm,
We won't be having parties until, before cruise ships kind of get popular again. So,
right,
for that company, we've hibernated that company. There's just no
yeah.
point chasing it. So,
Right. No, for sure. I mean, Steve, I know you're really involved in the Ottawa community. I know you're a philanthropist at heart. You always look to see how you can help the community, and I know you're a big advocate of that. It'd be really great to learn more about the partnership with United Way. How did that come to life? And maybe if you could just talk a little bit about what the initiative is, and what some of the results that you're seeing from that community engagement.
yeah, perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's part of our DNA. So if we look at Constance Bay, we had floods last year.
Yeah.
We had somebody from our office came to me, and he was from Constance Bay, and he says, "Hey, can we help? Can we help get generators? Can we help get pumps to Constance Bay?"
Mm,
Really told me what the problem was. I said, "Okay, well, there's one rule: nobody's allowed to make money, and throw all the resources you need to at it to make it successful." And that was pretty much kind of my involvement, and literally our team took it from there, and we helped save hundreds of homes, and it had a tremendous impact on the community,
mm,
and that felt really good. So this time around, we're like, okay, well, how can we help? And we were all kind of talking about it, and nothing was really coming to us until United Way reached out and started talking about laptops, and
mhm.
how laptops are actually lifelines for many people, these digital
Yes.
devices. If you have a mental health problem, you need to be reaching out to somebody. If you're a senior and you're totally alone and you can't leave your house,
Yeah.
you need to be able to get a hold of somebody to get some food or whatever it is that you need, or a student. um, so that was kind of where it all started for us. And man, the relationship, and I mean, you look at an organization like United Way, and until you get talking to them, you have no sense how many parts of the community they actually touch and help. It's unbelievable. So just, that was amazing to learn. And so we started collecting laptops so people can either put them on Ruckify, make them available for rent, or they can literally just donate them to United Way. United Way has their own Ruckify store, and it goes on their store, and then they distribute it to people that need it. And they started with really community organizations that would need it. Could be the food bank or whatever different organization. And I think so far we've been able to help support 38 Ottawa organizations and countless individuals in terms of giving them a cell phone, a laptop, whatever it is, right? Something for them to get connected. Other United Way districts started hearing about it. So last week we started in Calgary. Right away, we're looking for 1,000 devices to get people connected. We're just launching in Toronto. Obviously, a huge need in Toronto.
Yes.
Down in Austin, we're looking for 14,000 laptops there because it's for students. We need to make them. I mean, they are our future. We need to make sure they're connected and that they continue learning. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, Steve. And I think I'd like to just give a plug there more directly. But if there's any businesses across Canada, the US that are interested in donating devices, I know there's lots of businesses out there that have old inventory sitting around and things that they don't make good use of. So, please contact Ruckify.com, speak to somebody at the Ruckify team about making a donation there. I think that would be a great way to get involved. So, Steve, I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about leadership. And, maybe at two different areas there. But the first is mainly talking about, like, how has your role as a leader had to change for your people from, pre-COVID-19 to now being in this pandemic? What do you believe your role has been, and how are you keeping your people engaged?
I mean, I think the biggest concern, and it's going to be, it's becomes more of a concern every day, is mental health. And we just had a session, a lunch and learn, I think yesterday, a 1-hour lunch and learn on 12 tools for the whole team, how they can start. And we've got an anxiety one coming up. So, so that's kind of the biggest thing. I've always been very transparent with the team in terms of kind of the situation we're in, what the outcomes might be, good or bad. And that can be good or bad, right? So for a leader to be too transparent, you can get yourself in trouble sometimes. But it's kind of how I've operated. And I think that seems to be working well with the team. So at least they're not, I don't think there's any anxiety about them like being surprised by anything or being sideswiped by anything.
Right.
So, I think that helps. So we have to focus on reducing anxiety. We have to talk about mental health so that, I talk about it so that people are comfortable talking about it. And I think I'm fortunate in terms of, I would say, like, our management team has stepped up a lot more than I've stepped up because we've had to go from working in an office. Number one, we were 80 people. Overnight, we went to 40 people, and we went to being fully remote. So that was like a massive transition, which could just take months to work properly. And for some reason, we seem to just, and I don't think it was me. It was really our managers setting up the proper communication schedules, making sure we're talking to everybody, all the different teams, we're talking as a group. And that's working for us. I mean, I don't think the company's literally ever operated better. So,
yeah, I know some of the other leaders that we've been talking to also say that what they've really valued from their, is that this opportunity is presented, they've been presented with opportunities for their team to be able to grow and to learn different things and to be agile and flexible. And so I think there's also an opportunity there for lots of people that are working right now to wear multiple hats and to show different areas of value to an organization. And I really think that it really is about a team approach and everybody pulling in the right direction for one another. And I think that's what the common thread that I'm seeing with a lot of these businesses is that leaders, CEOs, executives are saying, we were really surprised with how our people have come together during this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really something that's been quite inspirational to hear. And I think I've always liked this about you, Steve. You're always very open and transparent with people, and I think that's something that I think people do respect you for, and I think it's a great way to lead. And
Thank
so
you.
I think obviously that's something that that your team respects. So I guess, before we sort of wrap up here, Steve, I got a couple other quick questions for you. But, when you think about, the entrepreneurial side of you and you think about sort of the future and the future landscape and where things are, you know, if you could imagine what the end result would look like of all this, where would you see Ruckify being? Where do you see Ruckify being in 5 years, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I see Ruckify in 5 years. I see us being a global player, and I see us, you know, having a very like we get to wake up every morning. We get to pinch ourselves because we're helping people, right? And we're helping the planet.
Yeah,
So, and I think we're just going to be, the more people we can reach, the more of that we're doing.
yeah,
So in 5 years, I see people, looking at kind of Ruckify as, man, thank God you guys came around. I mean, you're really helping me.
yeah,
And, you know, and we're allowing them to help other people, right? So we're
yes,
empowering them to help their communities, and
yes,
we're empowering them to help their planet, right? So if
yeah,
they're sharing, the other people aren't buying. So,
yeah,
so I think
yeah.
I'm very, very excited.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it'd be good to know if somebody wants to get involved, either, start their own store, or if, they're a vendor or a business that's been affected by COVID-19 and they want to look to get inventory on your platform. How would people look to get involved, Steve?
Best thing to do is to go to ruckify.com. There's a chat button at the bottom right hand corner.
Yep.
There's people there that are they're dying to help. So
Yeah.
just tell them whatever you'd like to do. We're there to help. We'll help you as much as you need. Or reach out. I mean, you can reach out to myself on LinkedIn. It's Steve Cody on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help. And we definitely look forward to hearing from as many people as possible.
That's awesome, Steve. And Steve, maybe just to wind things up here, maybe any little tidbit advice or piece of advice you'd want to give other fellow entrepreneurs out there, business owners, business leaders, any advice you'd want to give to people out there that are all, we're all sort of going through this set of circumstances. Any advice you'd give people?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what? It's the entrepreneur spirit. You absolutely don't give up. There's always a way. In this case, I think very dangerous to be stuck in the past. You got to think about the future and get on with it. And there's going to be a lot of new opportunity that's going to present itself. So I think it's going to be exciting times for entrepreneurs.
Well, that's great. That's great, Steve. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me about Ruckify, and it's always great to connect with you, Steve. And if everyone else out there that's listening, we look forward to chatting with you next week on the next episode of the series. Thanks a lot for joining me, Steve.
Thank you. Great job, Andrew.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Okay. Bye.
Bye.